In the quiet hours when sleep feels close, there exists a story that sprawls across dimensions and timelines, a tale woven from fragments of possibility and infinite combat. Super Dragon Ball Heroes began not as a traditional series, but as something stranger, a promotional venture that would grow into its own mythology. Before you drift into sleep, you're welcome to subscribe for more calm Dragon Ball stories. And if you feel like it, tell me where you're listening from tonight. This journey traces the timeline of every saga, every dimensional rift, every warrior pulled from their own reality to fight in battles that should never have happened, beginning with a prison that existed outside of time itself. The Prison Planet saga opened in July of 2018, marking the first breath of Super Dragon Ball Heroes as an anime. It was not a grand premiere in the traditional sense. Each episode lasted approximately 8 minutes, brief glimpses into a promotional world designed initially to celebrate a card-based arcade game. The animation studio Toei Animation produced these episodes not for television broadcast, but for online distribution, releasing them irregularly over months and years. The saga introduced viewers to Fu, a mysterious figure whose origins remained deliberately unclear. He appeared before Goku and Vegeta with news of future Trunks, claiming the young warrior had been captured and imprisoned on a planet that defied conventional understanding. This prison existed as multiple planets chained together, forming a single massive structure where the strongest criminals from countless timelines were held captive. What made this prison unique was its escape mechanism. 7 special Dragon Balls were scattered throughout the facility, and only by gathering all 7 could anyone hope to leave. The twist was simple yet cruel. Every prisoner knew of this rule, turning the entire planet into an arena where desperation fueled constant combat. Future Mai accompanied Goku and Vegeta through a rift in space-time that Fu created. The journey took them beyond their familiar universe into something that existed between dimensions. When they arrived, the sky above them was sealed, an invisible barrier that prevented flight beyond a certain altitude. This detail would become important later. Upon arrival, Goku encountered someone unexpected. Another version of himself stood before him, but this Goku possessed the power of Super Saiyan 4, a transformation that the main timeline Goku had never achieved. This alternate Goku came from the timeline where Dragon Ball GT had occurred, a reality parallel to the Super timeline. The two Gokus clashed immediately. Super Saiyan Blue met Super Saiyan 4 in combat that was both strange and familiar. They fought not out of malice, but from mutual misunderstanding and the inherent Saiyan desire to test one's strength against a worthy opponent. Their battle illuminated a key truth about the prison. Even combined Kamehameha waves could not damage the sealed sky above them. Fu revealed himself as the prison's architect. He had created this place deliberately, gathering warriors from different eras and dimensions to observe them fighting endlessly. His motivations remained vague, described only as an experiment. The Goku who wielded Super Saiyan 4 revealed his affiliation with something called the Time Patrol, an organization dedicated to preventing temporal distortions. This Goku carried the name Xeno Goku to distinguish him from the main timeline's Goku. His presence introduced the concept that multiple Gokus existed across different realities, each shaped by the unique events of their respective timelines. The Time Patrol operated from a place outside normal time, watching for anomalies and distortions. Cooler appeared within the prison as well, seeking the Dragon Balls for his own purposes. This version of Cooler possessed a transformation called Golden Cooler, mirroring his younger brother Frieza's golden form. His power had grown substantially since his movie appearances, adapted to match the escalating power levels that Super Dragon Ball Heroes embraced without restraint. The saga introduced Cumber, referred to as the Evil Saiyan. His power radiated a corrupting influence that could infect other fighters, turning them berserk and amplifying their aggression. When Cumber's aura touched Goku, the usually pure-hearted warrior became violent and uncontrollable, attacking his allies without recognition. Vegeta fought to protect the others while Goku remained compromised, The situation grew more complex when Cumber's corruption spread, affecting multiple fighters simultaneously. The prison planet became a chaotic battlefield where alliances shifted moment by moment, driven by the corrupting influence and the desperate search for Dragon Balls. Future Trunks found himself imprisoned in energy-draining shackles designed to suppress his power. He discovered Oolong from the original Dragon Ball series also trapped on the planet, specifically the Oolong from early in that series' timeline shortly after Episode 12. This detail suggested Fu had reached into very specific moments to pluck prisoners from time. The saga escalated when more powerful figures entered the conflict. Hearts, a warrior who had previously appeared in the Dragon Ball Heroes video game storyline, arrived with his own agenda. He possessed abilities related to gravity manipulation and harbored deep resentment toward the gods, particularly the Omni Kings who ruled over all universes. Hearts brought with him a team of warriors, including Oren and Kamen, twin fighters capable of merging with and possessing other beings. Their fighting style relied on parasitic fusion, allowing them to take control of stronger warriors and use their bodies as vessels. They targeted Universe 7's fighters specifically, seeing them as stepping stones to greater power. The conflict on Prison Planet concluded after multiple escalations. Goku and Vegeta were forced to use the Potara earrings to fuse into Vegito, combining their strengths to overcome the overwhelming opposition. Even in their fused state, they struggled against the combined threats of Cumber's corruption, Heart's gravity manipulation, and the parasitic twins. The final battle saw Vegito utilizing Super Saiyan Blue combined with Kaioken, a technique that multiplied his already tremendous power. The strain on his body was immense, but necessary to overcome enemies who had been empowered beyond normal limits. When the prison planet's Dragon Balls were finally gathered, the seal broke, allowing escape. Fu revealed portions of his true intentions during these events. He sought to observe the evolution of combat across different timelines, collecting data on how warriors adapted when pushed beyond their limits. The prison planet served as his laboratory, and every battle provided him with valuable information for purposes he kept carefully hidden. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off, and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. The Universal Conflict Saga began immediately after the Prison Planet Saga concluded, commencing in December of 2018. This arc expanded the scope significantly, moving beyond a single location to encompass threats affecting multiple universes simultaneously. The title itself suggested the breadth of combat to come. Hearts emerged as the primary antagonist of this saga, having escaped the prison planet with his power intact and his resolve strengthened. His goal crystallized into something specific and terrifying. He intended to destroy Zeno, the Omni King who ruled over all 12 universes with absolute authority. To Hearts, Zeno represented the ultimate tyranny, a being whose casual erasure of entire universes demonstrated power without responsibility. The Universe Seed became Heart's weapon of choice. This artifact, never before seen in Dragon Ball canon, possessed the ability to absorb energy from entire universes, growing stronger with each world it consumed. Hearts planted fragments of the Universe Seed across different realities, allowing it to drain power from multiple sources simultaneously. Oren and Kamen continued serving Hearts during this saga, their parasitic abilities proving useful for infiltration and sabotage. They merged with various Universe 7 warriors, attempting to use their bodies to attack from within. Their possession technique created tense moments where allies became enemies without warning, forcing difficult choices about how to fight back without harming the host body. Jiren appeared during this saga, pulled from his timeline in Universe 11. The Pride Trooper brought his immense strength to bear against Heart's forces, demonstrating the same overwhelming power he had shown during the Tournament of Power. His presence added another layer to the conflict, representing the universes beyond Universe 7 that rarely received focus. Hit, the legendary assassin from Universe 6, also joined the battle. His time manipulation abilities made him a valuable asset against enemies who relied on conventional combat. Hit's time skip technique allowed him to create pockets of frozen time where only he could move, giving him opportunities to strike vital points before opponents could react. The saga introduced viewers to Gogeta, the fusion of Goku and Vegeta achieved through the fusion dance rather than Potara earrings. This Gogeta accessed Super Saiyan Blue, creating a warrior whose power rivaled or exceeded Vegeto's. The animation showcased Gogeta's fluid fighting style, emphasizing speed and precision over raw force. Hearts absorbed the completed universe seed during the saga's climax, transforming himself into something beyond a normal mortal. His new form radiated energy that distorted reality around him, creating gravity wells and temporal distortions with his mere presence. He declared himself powerful enough to challenge Zeno directly, having accumulated the energy of multiple universes within his being. The final battle against Hearts required cooperation from multiple timelines. Goku Vegeta, Xeno Goku, and Xeno Vegeta all fought together, representing both the Super and GT continuities united against a common threat. Their combined assault gradually wore down Heart's defenses, but his universe seed-enhanced body regenerated damage almost instantly. Gogeta dealt the decisive blow, utilizing a technique that channeled energy from all assembled warriors into a single devastating attack. The impact shattered Heart's connection to the universe seed, causing the absorbed energy to disperse harmlessly back into the universes from which it had been stolen. Hearts fell, his ambition to free mortals from Zeno's rule ending in failure. During the battle's aftermath, Fu appeared briefly to observe the results. His expression suggested satisfaction rather than disappointment, implying that Heart's defeat had provided exactly the data he sought. The scientist vanished before anyone could question him, leaving behind only mysteries about his ultimate purpose. The Universal Conflict saga concluded in July of 2019 after 20 episodes. Its resolution left multiple plot threads deliberately unfinished, particularly regarding Fu's experiments and the true scope of his knowledge about timelines. These loose ends would become important in subsequent arcs. Between sagas, Super Dragon Ball Heroes released special promotional episodes focusing on specific characters or scenarios. These episodes existed outside the main timeline, offering glimpses of battles that might occur under different circumstances. One such episode featured Broly in his legendary Super Saiyan form fighting against Jiren, a matchup that the main series had never explored. Another special episode showcased various fusion possibilities, displaying what might happen if different character pairs used the fusion dance or Potara earrings. These specials served primarily as fan service, acknowledging popular matchup requests while maintaining the experimental nature that defined Super Dragon Ball Heroes from its inception. The new Space-Time War saga, also called the Universal Conflict Arc's second phase, began in November of 2019. This saga shifted focus toward time itself as a battlefield, introducing concepts about competing forces who sought to control or destroy the temporal flow that connected all realities. The Time Patrol took center stage during this saga, with Xeno Goku and Xeno Vegeta appearing more frequently. Their organization operated from the Time Nest, a location existing outside regular space-time where the Supreme Kai of Time, Chronoa, monitored temporal stability. Her role involved detecting paradoxes and distortions that threatened to unravel the fabric connecting different timelines. Mechikabura emerged as the saga's primary threat. This ancient demon god had been sealed away long ago by the Supreme Kai of Time, his power deemed too dangerous to allow freedom. Through circumstances orchestrated partially by Fu, Mechikabura's seal weakened, allowing fragments of his consciousness to influence events across multiple eras. The saga revealed that Mechikabura sought to absorb all of time itself, consuming past, present, and future into his being to achieve power that would make him omnipotent. His plan required gathering energy from key historical moments, specifically battles where massive amounts of power had been unleashed and left residual traces in the temporal fabric. Demigra appeared as one of Mechikabura's servants, though their relationship held complexities. Demigra himself had once sought to control time, serving as an antagonist in the Dragon Ball Xenoverse video games. His presence in Super Dragon Ball Heroes acknowledged that game's continuity while adapting it for this new context. The Dark Empire, Mechikabura's organization, consisted of warriors gathered from various timelines and corrupted by dark energy. This energy granted power at the cost of sanity and morality, transforming its recipients into beings driven purely by the desire for destruction. Members of the Dark Empire included alternate versions of familiar characters twisted into villainous roles. Dabura returned as the Dark King, having been empowered by Mechikabura's magic to heights far beyond his original appearance in the Majin Buu saga. This version of Dabura commanded dark magic that could corrupt even divine beings, turning gods into servants of the Dark Empire. His loyalty to Mechikabura appeared absolute, driven by promises of power that exceeded anything the demon realm could naturally provide. The Time Patrol expanded their roster during this saga, recruiting warriors from different eras to help combat the Dark Empire's growing threat. These recruits included alternate versions of characters whose main timeline counterparts had never received such opportunities. One notable recruit was a Bardock who had survived his death and gained Super Saiyan 4 transformation through time anomalies. Xeno Bardock's presence added emotional weight to battles where he fought alongside his son, Xeno Goku. Their relationship had never developed in the normal timeline, making these moments particularly meaningful within the story's context. The saga explored how time manipulation could create opportunities for connections that history had denied. Future Gohan appeared as well, specifically the version from Trunks' timeline, who had died fighting the androids. The Time Patrol's ability to pull warriors from moments before their deaths meant they could recruit people at their peak determination, creating a force of fighters who knew loss intimately and refused to accept defeat. The saga introduced viewers to time scrolls, artifacts that contained records of specific historical events. These scrolls could be used to travel directly to particular moments, but they also served as weak points in time structure. If someone destroyed a time scroll, the events it recorded would be erased from history, creating cascading paradoxes. Mechikabura's forces targeted time scrolls systematically, attempting to erase key moments that had shaped the universe's current state. Their attacks threatened to undo victories that heroes had achieved, potentially erasing the births of important figures or preventing crucial alliances from forming. The Time Patrol raced to defend these scrolls, fighting battles across different eras simultaneously. The Time Nest itself came under assault during the saga's middle portion. Dark Empire forces breached its defenses, forcing Chronoa to engage in direct combat despite her preference for administrative duties. Her time manipulation abilities proved formidable in defense, but the sheer number of attackers threatened to overwhelm even her considerable powers. Trunks, in his Xeno form as a time patroller, wielded a weapon called the Key Sword during these battles. This blade possessed the unique ability to seal away evil energy and undo corruption, making it particularly effective against Dark Empire warriors. The sword's origins remained mysterious, described only as an artifact entrusted to the Time Patrol by an unnamed benefactor. Super Saiyan Blue Vegeto returned during crucial moments, formed when circumstances demanded the absolute strongest fusion available. His battles against empowered Dark Empire members showcased techniques refined beyond their Tournament of Power appearances, suggesting both Goku and Vegeta had continued training even while dealing with multiversal threats. The saga revealed that Fu had been manipulating events from the beginning, providing Mechikabura with information and resources that accelerated his resurrection. Fu's motivations remained unclear, but his actions suggested he wanted to observe what would happen when someone actually succeeded in absorbing time itself. The experiment interested him more than any particular outcome. Time itself became unstable as Mechikabura's power grew. Rifts appeared spontaneously, connecting different eras without warning. Warriors would find themselves suddenly transported from one battle to another, forced to adapt instantly to completely different circumstances. These rifts created chaotic moments where ancient warriors fought alongside futuristic technology. Chronoa attempted to reseal Mechikabura using the same technique that had worked millennia ago, but his power had grown substantially during his imprisonment. The seal failed to fully contain him, managing only to slow his absorption of temporal energy. The failure forced the Time Patrol to seek alternative methods of stopping him. The saga climaxed with Mechikabura achieving his goal, partially absorbing large portions of time into his being. His body transformed into something that existed across all eras simultaneously, making him effectively impossible to defeat through conventional means. Any attack launched at him in the present had already been absorbed into his being before it connected. Defeating Mechikabura required a creative solution. The Time Patrol discovered that while he had absorbed past and present, the future remained outside his grasp. By channeling energy specifically from potential futures that had not yet occurred, they created an attack that Mechikabura could not predict or absorb in advance. Trunks delivered this attack using the key sword as a focus, combining the power of multiple warriors into a single strike aimed at Mechikabura's core. The blade's sealing properties worked in conjunction with the future energy to create a binding that trapped Mechikabura in a temporal loop, effectively imprisoning him within a single moment that repeated endlessly. The victory came at significant cost. Multiple time scrolls had been destroyed during the battles, erasing certain events from history. The Time Patrol faced the difficult task of determining which historical moments could be safely restored and which erasures had created new timelines that must be allowed to continue existing to avoid further paradoxes. Fu disappeared once again after Mechikabura's defeat, expressing satisfaction with the data collected. His parting words suggested that even greater experiments waited in the future, implying that the conflict so far had served merely as preliminary research for something more ambitious. The threat of his return loomed over the Time Patrol. The new Space-Time War saga concluded in March of 2020 after 9 episodes. Its resolution established the Time Patrol as a permanent fixture in Super Dragon Ball Heroes continuity, setting up their continued involvement in protecting temporal stability. The saga's events had lasting consequences that would influence subsequent arcs. Following the new Space-Time War saga, Super Dragon Ball Heroes released another series of promotional episodes. These focused on specific timeline explorations, showing what might have happened if certain key events had unfolded differently. One episode depicted a timeline where Goku had never hit his head as a baby, remaining the ruthless Saiyan warrior he had been born to become. Another special episode explored a timeline where Frieza's father, King Cold, had received the same golden form transformation as his sons. This Cold proved nearly unstoppable, requiring multiple fusions and divine transformations to defeat. The episode served as a reminder that power scaling in Super Dragon Ball Heroes followed its own logic, unconcerned with traditional limitations. The Universe Creation Saga began in May of 2020, introducing concepts that pushed even Super Dragon Ball Heroes' already flexible continuity to new extremes. This saga explored the possibility of creating entirely new universes from scratch, asking questions about the nature of reality and the responsibilities that came with such godlike power. Fu stepped fully into the antagonist role during the saga, revealing the scope of his ambitions for the first time. He had gathered data from every previous conflict with a specific purpose to create a new universe according to his own design. This universe would be his laboratory, a controlled environment where he could conduct experiments without interference from existing cosmic authorities. The universe tree served as Fu's instrument for creation. This massive construct existed partially in normal space and partially in a dimension beyond regular understanding. It grew by absorbing energy from existing universes, using that power as fuel to birth entirely new realities. Each universe it absorbed left behind a withered husk, stripped of all life and energy. The revelation horrified both the Time Patrol and Universe 7's fighters. Fu intended to sacrifice multiple universes to create his perfect laboratory, showing no concern for the countless lives that would be extinguished. His scientific curiosity had evolved into something monstrous, prioritizing experimental results over all ethical considerations. Hart's earlier actions with the universe seed had provided Fu with valuable research. By observing how that artifact absorbed and stored universal energy, Fu had developed the universe tree's more efficient design. The connection between sagas became clear, revealing that Fu had been guiding events toward this outcome for much longer than anyone suspected. Goku Black appeared during this saga, though not the version from the future Trunks arc of Dragon Ball Super. This Goku Black came from a different timeline, one where his fusion with Zamasu had succeeded completely, creating a being of pure malevolence and godly power. Fu had recruited him specifically for his strength and his willingness to destroy entire realities. Zamasu himself appeared separately, representing yet another timeline variation. This version had achieved a form beyond the fusion Zamasu seen in Super, having trained and evolved his powers across multiple eras. His hatred for mortals remained absolute, making him eager to help Fu destroy existing universes if it meant fewer mortals would exist overall. The Xeno versions of Goku and Vegeta achieved Super Saiyan 4 Limit Breaker during this saga, a transformation that pushed their GT timeline powers to unprecedented heights. Their auras blazed with silver energy mixed into the traditional red, and their physical strength increased exponentially. This form represented the pinnacle of what the Super Saiyan 4 transformation could achieve. Super Saiyan Blue also received an evolution during this saga, with Goku and Vegeta from the main timeline achieving perfected Super Saiyan Blue. This refinement eliminated the stamina drain that normally plagued the transformation, allowing them to maintain peak power indefinitely. Their mastery demonstrated growth that came from constant battle across dimensions. Gogeta and Vegito both appeared during the saga's major battles, sometimes simultaneously. The two fusions fought in coordination despite their mutual rivalry, with Gogeta using the fusion dance form and Vegito using Potara fusion. Their combined assault created devastating combination attacks that tore holes in dimensional barriers. The universe tree's growth accelerated as Fu fed it more energy. Its branches spread across multiple universes simultaneously, with roots that dug deep into the fabric of reality. Planets withered as it passed, stars dimmed and died, entire civilizations vanished as their home universes collapsed into the tree's expanding form. Chronoa led the Time Patrol in desperate attempts to slow the universe tree's growth. They discovered that severing its branches could temporarily halt its expansion in specific universes, buying time for evacuation efforts. Warriors spread across multiple realities, working frantically to save as many lives as possible before the tree's roots reached them. The saga revealed that Fu himself was born from circumstances involving time manipulation. His mother Toa, a demon scientist, and his father Mira, an artificial warrior, had created him as the ultimate fusion of magic and science. Fu's existence represented the culmination of their research into creating the perfect being, though he had long since surpassed their control. Fu's connection to the demon realm became important during the saga's progression. He utilized technology and magic from that dimension, combining them with his own innovations to create weapons and techniques that defied conventional understanding. His laboratory contained artifacts from dozens of timelines, stolen or copied during his travels. The saga introduced the concept of universe creation, requiring a specific type of energy called God Ki Plus, a theoretical power that existed beyond normal divine energy. Fu had developed a method to synthesize this energy by forcing gods from different universes to fight each other, harvesting the unique energy produced when their distinct types of god ki clashed. Beerus and Champa, the gods of destruction from universes 7 and 6, were forced into combat by Fu's manipulations. Their battle released tremendous amounts of energy that the universe tree absorbed eagerly. Other god of destruction pairs found themselves similarly manipulated, creating a multiversal crisis that threatened to destroy the entire cosmic order. Whis and Vados attempted to intervene, but Fu had prepared countermeasures specifically for angels. He created a barrier that negated their ability to manipulate time, effectively neutralizing what should have been an overwhelming advantage. Without their time manipulation, the angels' combat abilities alone proved insufficient to overcome Fu's defenses. The Grand Priest appeared briefly, observing the situation, but not directly intervening. His presence suggested that even the highest cosmic authorities recognized Fu's experiment as something that must be allowed to play out. The reasons for this apparent non-interference remained unexplained, adding another layer of mystery to the cosmic hierarchy. Zeno himself never appeared during the saga, despite the multiversal threat. His absence raised questions about whether he was aware of the situation, or if Fu had somehow concealed the universe tree's growth from the Omni King's perception. The possibility that Fu could hide something from Zeno seemed absurd, yet no erasure came. The battle against the universe tree intensified as it neared completion. Its trunk had grown large enough to be visible from multiple universes simultaneously, a pillar of twisted wood and energy that connected realities in ways that should not exist. Warriors attacked it from every angle, but it regenerated damage faster than they could inflict it. Fu revealed that the new universe he created would have properties impossible in natural reality. Time would flow differently in different regions, allowing the same person to exist at multiple ages simultaneously. Space would curve in ways that brought distant points together while separating nearby locations. The laws of physics themselves would be adjustable, changeable at Fu's whim for experimental purposes. Defeating the universe tree required destroying its core, which Fu had hidden carefully. The core existed in a pocket dimension accessible only through specific coordinates that changed constantly. Finding these coordinates demanded solving mathematical equations that incorporated variables from across multiple timelines. Trunks worked with Chronoa to calculate the core's location, using time scrolls as reference points to triangulate the pocket dimension's position relative to normal space. Their calculations revealed that the core moved through dimensions following a pattern based on Fu's own heartbeat, a detail so personal that it would have been nearly impossible to predict without extensive observation. The final assault on the universe tree's core involved warriors from every timeline that had been threatened. Goku, Vegeta, and their Xeno counterparts led the charge, backed by the Time Patrol, Universe 11's Pride Troopers, and even reformed villains who recognized that Fu's plan threatened them as well. The coalition represented perhaps the largest gathering of warriors ever assembled. Gogeta and Vegito fused their attacks with those of Xeno Gogeta and Xeno Vegito, creating a combination technique that channeled power from 4 separate fusion warriors simultaneously. The energy output exceeded anything previously achieved, tearing through dimensional barriers and creating a direct path to the universe tree's hidden core. Fu defended his creation personally, transforming into a state that drew power directly from the universe tree itself. His body radiated the combined energy of multiple universes, making him functionally immortal as long as the tree continued existing. Defeating him required destroying the tree, but destroying the tree required getting past him, creating an impossible paradox. The solution came from an unexpected source. Goku suggested that instead of destroying the universe tree completely, they should redirect its growth inward, causing it to consume itself. The tree's nature was to absorb energy, and no energy source was greater than itself. If they could trick it into treating its own mass as fuel, it would enter a self-destructive feedback loop. Chronoa used her time manipulation to accelerate the universe tree's perception of time while slowing the actual flow of time around it. From the tree's perspective, it suddenly faced a drought of external energy lasting millions of years. Starving and desperate, it began absorbing its own branches and roots, desperately seeking sustenance. Fu tried to stop the process, but fighting against all the assembled warriors while simultaneously trying to save his creation proved impossible. The universe tree consumed itself faster and faster, its core shrinking as it cannibalized its own mass for energy that never satisfied its hunger. The tree's destruction created a massive energy backlash that rippled across all affected universes. Chronoa and the Time Patrol worked to contain and redirect this energy, using it to restore the universes that had been drained earlier. The restoration was imperfect, with some details changed, but the affected realities survived where they would have otherwise perished. Fu escaped during the chaos, teleporting away before the final collapse. His parting words expressed disappointment that his experiment had failed, but also excitement about future possibilities. The data he had collected would inform new projects, he promised, and next time he would account for the variables that had led to this failure. The universe creation saga concluded in October of 2021, after 19 episodes. Its resolution marked a shift in Super Dragon Ball Heroes' ongoing narrative, establishing Fu as a persistent threat whose ambitions would drive future conflicts. The saga's events demonstrated that even multiversal threats could be overcome through cooperation across timelines. Special episodes released between major sagas continued exploring alternate scenarios. One featured a battle royale between every version of Vegeta who had appeared across different timelines, including his Majin form, his Super Saiyan 4 form, his Super Saiyan Blue evolution form, and various others. The episode concluded without declaring a winner, leaving the question deliberately unresolved. Another special showcased the destructive power of various gods of destruction fighting simultaneously. Beerus, Champa, and their counterparts from other universes engaged in combat that destroyed entire planets as collateral damage. The episode emphasized the catastrophic scale of power that beings at this level wielded casually. The Supreme Kai of Time saga, also called the Crimson Masked Saiyan arc, began in November of 2021. This saga shifted focus back to time manipulation and the mysteries surrounding Chronoa's past, revealing that the Supreme Kai of Time held secrets that even the Time Patrol did not know. A mysterious figure appeared wearing a crimson mask that concealed their identity completely. This warrior wielded power that seemed specifically designed to counter time manipulation, creating pockets of frozen time where even Chrono's abilities failed to function. Their attacks targeted time scrolls and temporal infrastructure deliberately. The Crimson Masked Saiyan, as they became known, demonstrated combat abilities that suggested extensive training and experience. Their fighting style incorporated techniques from multiple eras, blending ancient demon realm magic with modern Saiyan transformations in ways that should not have been possible for a single individual. Investigations revealed that the masked warrior possessed knowledge about Chronoa's history that had never been recorded in any time scroll. They spoke of events from before Chronoa became the Supreme Kai of Time, referencing people and places that had supposedly been erased from history. This knowledge suggested either time travel to impossible points or access to sealed records. Meki Kabura returned during this saga, though in a diminished form. His earlier defeat had not destroyed him completely, and fragments of his power had survived by hiding in temporal dead zones, moments that existed between recorded events. These fragments gradually reconstituted his consciousness, allowing him to influence events indirectly. The saga revealed that Chronoa had once had a partner, another Kai who helped her maintain temporal stability. This partner had supposedly died or been erased during a conflict in the distant past, though no records of this event existed in the Time Nest's archives. The Crimson Masked Saiyan's knowledge of this figure suggested a connection. Eos appeared as a major character during this saga, introducing herself as a former Supreme Kai of Time. Her existence shocked Chronoa, who had believed herself to be the only one who had ever held that position. Eos explained that multiple Supreme Kais of Time had existed across different eras, each serving until circumstances required a replacement. The revelation challenged fundamental assumptions about temporal governance. If multiple Supreme Kais of Time had existed, questions arose about what had happened to the previous ones and why Chronoa had no knowledge of them. Eos suggested that each Supreme Kai of Time had their memories sealed upon retirement, preventing them from interfering with their successors' work. Eos proposed a tournament to determine who was most worthy of serving as Supreme Kai of Time. She gathered warriors from across multiple timelines, organizing them into teams that would compete for the right to shape how time itself would be managed going forward. The tournament's rules specified that only the winning team's timeline would continue existing. The stakes horrified the Time Patrol and Universe 7's fighters. Losing this tournament would mean erasure not just for themselves, but for everyone and everything in their timeline. Every friend, every family member, every moment they had experienced would vanish as if it had never happened. Winning became not just desirable, but absolutely necessary. Teams formed representing different timelines and possibilities. Universe 7's team included Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Gohan from the main timeline, while the Time Patrol fielded their own team with Xeno Goku, Exo Goku, Exo Trunks, and Xeno Pan. Other teams represented timelines that had never been explored in detail, showing glimpses of radically different Dragon Ball universes. The tournament battles showcased power escalation that exceeded even Super Dragon Ball Heroes' usual standards. Warriors fought with techniques that bent reality, creating temporary pocket dimensions where normal physics did not apply. Some fighters wielded weapons that could cut through time itself, severing cause from effect. Gohan achieved a new transformation during the tournament called Beast Gohan, representing the full release of his hidden potential. This form's power surpassed his previous ultimate form significantly, with white hair and red eyes that radiated barely controlled fury. His strength in this state allowed him to fight evenly against opponents who had previously been beyond his reach. Piccolo also achieved a new form called Orange Piccolo, resulting from him unlocking potential that had always existed within Namekians but had never been accessed. His power increase allowed him to contribute meaningfully to battles where he would have otherwise been hopelessly outmatched. The transformation's orange coloration distinguished him visually from his usual green appearance. The tournament's structure required teams to battle for possession of special Dragon Balls created by Eos. These tournament Dragon Balls possessed unique properties, granting wishes that affected entire timelines rather than single universes. Gathering them became secondary to survival, but teams that collected multiple balls gained significant advantages. Eos observed each battle carefully, evaluating not just combat strength but also teamwork, strategy, and philosophical approach to conflict. Her judging criteria remained deliberately vague, preventing teams from gaming the system by focusing on specific metrics. Every fight demanded maximum effort, without guarantee that victory would be sufficient. The crimson-masked Saiyan interfered in several tournament matches, attacking fighters seemingly at random. Their interventions suggested an agenda beyond simple disruption, as they specifically targeted warriors who had been manipulated by time travel in their past. The pattern suggested they sought to punish those who had benefited from temporal interference. Fu appeared as a spectator during the tournament, observing but not participating. His presence raised questions about whether he had influenced Eos's decision to hold the tournament, and if so, what data he hoped to collect from these battles. Chronowa attempted to confront him, but he vanished before she could demand answers. The tournament revealed that Eos had grown disillusioned with her former role as Supreme Kai of Time. She had witnessed countless timelines destroyed or altered by the actions of time travelers, seeing the pain caused by constant temporal interference. Her solution was to determine one true timeline and erase all others, preventing future paradoxes by eliminating the possibility of time travel entirely. Chronowa argued against this plan, insisting that every timeline had value and that erasing them would destroy countless innocent lives. The philosophical debate between them became as important as the physical tournament, with Eos challenging Chronowa to prove that maintaining multiple timelines caused less suffering than her proposed solution. The tournament battles grew increasingly desperate as teams realized that loss meant total erasure. Fusion became common, with multiple teams using Potara earrings or the fusion dance to create warriors powerful enough to compete. Some battles featured multiple fusions fighting simultaneously, creating chaos that threatened to destroy the tournament arena itself. Xeno Goku and Xeno Vegeta achieved a new fusion form called Xeno Goketa Super Saiyan 4 Limit Breaker, combining their enhanced transformations into a singular being of tremendous power. This fusion's strength allowed the Time Patrol team to survive matches that would have otherwise eliminated them, keeping their timeline in the tournament. Goku and Vegeta from the main timeline countered with Vegito Blue Evolved, an enhancement of their Potara fusion that incorporated Vegeta's Super Saiyan Blue evolution into the merged form. The power increase was substantial, though the Potara's time limit became even shorter due to the enhanced energy output. The Crimson Masked Saiyan's identity was finally revealed during a crucial tournament match. They were the fusion of two individuals who had been erased from the main timeline, warriors whose existence had been sacrificed to prevent a temporal paradox. Their hatred for time manipulation stemmed from being the victims of it, having lost everything when their timeline was deemed unsustainable. This revelation complicated the moral landscape of the tournament. The Crimson Masked Saiyan fought not from evil but from a desire for justice, seeking to punish those who casually manipulated time without considering the consequences. Their perspective aligned partially with Eos's philosophy, though their methods differed significantly. The tournament's final rounds came down to two teams, Universe 7's main timeline team and the Time Patrol team. Eos announced that these two would face each other in a final battle, with the winning timeline surviving and the losing timeline being erased. The prospect of having to destroy their alternate selves horrified both teams. Chronoa intervened before the final match could begin, challenging Eos directly. She proposed that instead of determining the sole surviving timeline through combat, they should allow all timelines to exist but implement stricter oversight of time travel. This compromise would address Eos's concerns about temporal interference while preserving the lives that existed across different realities. Eos considered the proposal, evaluating it against her original plan. The debate between them explored fundamental questions about authority, responsibility, and the value of individual lives versus cosmic order. Ultimately, Eos acknowledged that erasure might prevent future suffering but would also eliminate future joy, growth, and possibility. The tournament concluded without a final battle. Eos agreed to Chronoa's compromise, establishing new rules for time travel that required approval from both former Supreme Kais of Time. This dual oversight would make temporal manipulation more difficult, but would also ensure that two perspectives evaluated every potential intervention. The teams from different timelines said their farewells, knowing that stricter time travel rules would make future meetings unlikely. Goku and Xeno Goku shook hands, acknowledging each other as fellow warriors who had fought to protect their respective realities. Similar partings occurred across the teams as warriors who had never met before and might never meet again shared brief moments of mutual respect. Fu's reaction to the tournament's conclusion appeared pleased despite the lack of timeline erasure. He had collected data on how warriors from different realities fought together, observed new transformations and techniques, and witnessed philosophical debates about temporal ethics. All of this information would inform his future experiments, whatever they might entail. The Supreme Kai of Time saga concluded in July of 2023 after 27 episodes. Its resolution established a new status quo for time travel in Super Dragon Ball Heroes, creating boundaries that would theoretically prevent the worst excesses while still allowing heroic intervention when necessary. Whether these rules would hold remained to be seen. The Meteor mission arc began in October of 2023, though it represented more of an epilogue than a full saga. These episodes explored smaller-scale adventures and conflicts that occurred after the major multiversal threats had been resolved. The relaxed pacing allowed for character moments that larger arcs rarely provided time to develop. One episode focused on Goku and Xeno Goku training together, exploring how their different transformation paths had led to different fighting philosophies. Super Saiyan Blue emphasized godly control and efficiency, while Super Saiyan 4 represented raw Saiyan power pushed to its absolute limit. Neither approach was superior, but each had advantages in specific situations. Another episode showcased Vegeta teaching tactics to younger Saiyan warriors from across different timelines. His experience fighting countless battles informed his instruction, emphasizing the importance of analyzing opponents rather than simply overwhelming them with power. The students included versions of Gohan, Trunks, and Goten, who had developed differently due to their timeline's unique circumstances. The arc introduced casual interactions between characters who rarely shared screen time during major conflicts. Piccolo and Hit discussed assassination techniques and pressure point targeting, finding unexpected common ground despite their vastly different backgrounds. Beerus and Champa argued about food while their attendant angels watched with patient amusement. These quieter episodes served an important purpose within Super Dragon Ball Heroes' overall structure. They reminded viewers that even in a continuity defined by multiversal combat and reality warping threats, the characters remained people with relationships, preferences, and lives beyond constant fighting. The breathing room between major arcs made the subsequent conflicts feel more meaningful. The Meteor Mission arc also featured several what-if scenarios exploring hypothetical questions about Dragon Ball history. One episode depicted what might have happened if Raditz had survived and been redeemed, showing him training alongside Goku and eventually achieving Super Saiyan transformation. His fighting style blended Saiyan ruthlessness with Earth's martial arts philosophy in interesting ways. Another what-if episode showed a timeline where Android 17 had become a Z fighter much earlier, joining during the Cell Saga instead of the Tournament of Power arc. His presence changed several key battles significantly, with his infinite energy allowing him to wear down opponents who would have otherwise outlasted the heroes. Throughout these smaller stories, hints appeared suggesting that Fu had not abandoned his experiments. Brief glimpses showed him collecting data from these peaceful moments with the same interest he showed during major conflicts. His motivations remained inscrutable, but his continued observation implied that he was building towards something specific. The Super Space-Time Tournament arc began in July of 2024, marking a return to larger-scale conflicts. This arc revisited the tournament concept from the Supreme Kai of Time saga, but with different stakes and participants. Instead of timelines competing for survival, teams fought for the right to have a wish granted by a special set of Dragon Balls created specifically for this event. The tournament structure differed from previous competitions. Rather than elimination brackets, this event used a round-robin format, where every team fought every other team. Points were awarded based on performance rather than simple victory or defeat, encouraging teams to demonstrate skill and strategy rather than just overwhelming power. Teams formed around different themes rather than timelines. One team consisted entirely of fusion warriors, featuring Gogeta, Vegito, and various other fusions from across Dragon Ball's continuity. Another team included only villains who had been redeemed or reformed, giving characters like Piccolo, Vegeta, and Android 17 a chance to fight alongside each other. A team of Namekian warriors represented their species' rarely seen combat capabilities. This team included Piccolo, Nail, and various Namekians from different timelines who had developed unique abilities. Their synchronized teamwork and regeneration abilities made them difficult opponents despite lacking the raw power output of Saiyan teams. The Gods of Destruction formed their own team, with Beerus leading Champa and select other destruction gods in combat. Their teamwork was predictably poor due to conflicting egos, but their individual power compensated significantly. Watching multiple Gods of Destruction coordinate attacks created spectacular displays of energy and force. Universe 11's Pride Troopers returned as a team, with Jiren leading Toppo and other members. Their justice-focused philosophy translated into protecting each other during battles, with stronger members deliberately taking hits meant for weaker teammates. The strategy emphasized their belief that heroes should protect others even at personal cost. A team representing the Demon Realm featured warriors using dark magic and forbidden techniques. Their fighting style relied on curses and status effects rather than direct power, attempting to weaken opponents before finishing them. The approach proved effective against physically stronger teams who lacked resistance to magical attacks. The tournament battles showcased various new techniques and transformations. Gohan developed a technique that allowed him to share his beast form's power temporarily with allies, creating brief windows where entire teams operated at dramatically enhanced levels. The strain prevented frequent use, but the strategic applications were significant. Vegeta achieved a transformation called Ultra Ego, representing his acceptance of destruction as a valid path to power. Unlike Ultra Instinct's defensive perfection, Ultra Ego grew stronger the more damage Vegeta took, turning his fighting spirit and Saiyan nature into raw combat advantage. The transformation's appearance featured purple aura and distinctive markings. Goku refined his Ultra Instinct to a new level called True Ultra Instinct, achieving the transformation's benefits without the emotionless state that usually accompanied it. This evolution let him combine instinctive reaction with conscious strategy, creating a more versatile fighting style. His silver hair and aura remained, but his eyes showed full awareness. The tournament featured battles that lasted multiple episodes, allowing time for complex strategies to develop. Teams adapted to each other's techniques mid-fight, creating tactical exchanges that rewarded viewers who paid attention to details. Callbacks to earlier battles occurred when teams implemented counter strategies based on observed weaknesses. One particularly memorable match featured the Fusion team facing the Gods of Destruction team. The Fusion's time limits became a critical factor, with the gods attempting to stall until their opponents defused. Gogeta and Vegito coordinated to ensure at least one remained fused at all times, rotating who defused and refused to maintain constant pressure. The Villain Redemption team's match against the Pride Troopers explored interesting thematic ground. Both teams believed in protecting others, but their definitions of justice and redemption differed significantly. The battle became as much a philosophical debate as a physical contest, with each side trying to prove their worldview through combat. Fu appeared midway through the tournament, revealing that he had secretly sponsored the event. The Dragon Balls being offered as prizes were his creation, designed to grant wishes that would provide him with valuable experimental data. His disclosure cast doubt on the tournament's legitimacy, though the battles continued regardless. The Dragon Balls Fu created had special properties that made wishes unpredictable. Each wish would be granted, but with side effects chosen by Fu himself to create interesting scenarios. This revelation made teams reconsider what they would wish for, knowing that even well-intentioned wishes might create problems. Despite Fu's interference, the tournament proceeded to its conclusion. Points accumulated over multiple rounds determined that the team of reformed villains had performed most consistently, earning them the right to make a wish. Their victory speech emphasized that redemption required constant effort rather than a single heroic act. The team wished for a chance to prevent the circumstances that had turned them villainous originally, hoping to save their past selves from the pain and mistakes that had defined their lives. Fu granted the wish with his customary twist, creating alternate timelines where those circumstances were prevented, but other equally challenging situations arose. The wish's outcome satisfied no one completely, which Fu found amusing. The team received what they asked for, technically, but learned that changing the past created new problems rather than eliminating suffering. The lesson aligned with the broader themes about time manipulation that Super Dragon Ball Heroes had explored throughout its run. The Super Space-Time Tournament arc concluded in October of 2024 after 16 episodes. Its ending left several plot threads deliberately open, acknowledging that Fu would continue experimenting and that future conflicts would arise from his actions. The tournament format had proven popular enough to suggest future iterations might occur. Throughout Super Dragon Ball Heroes' run, certain themes appeared consistently across different sagas and arcs. The nature of strength received constant examination, with characters achieving power through various means including training, fusion, transformation, divine intervention, and even absorption. No single path proved definitively superior, suggesting that multiple routes to strength had validity. Time manipulation's consequences formed another recurring theme. Nearly every saga involved temporal interference of some kind, whether through time travel, alternate timelines, or attempts to control time itself. The cumulative message suggested that while time manipulation could prevent tragedies, it also created new problems and carried responsibilities that users often failed to anticipate. The value of cooperation appeared frequently, with even the strongest individual warriors requiring help to overcome major threats. Fusion represented the most literal version of this cooperation, but teamwork during battles demonstrated it equally well. Characters who had once fought each other learned to combine their strengths against common enemies. Fu's role as a constant observer and occasional antagonist tied many themes together. His scientific approach to combat treated warriors as experimental subjects rather than people, raising questions about the ethics of observation and manipulation. His willingness to sacrifice others for knowledge positioned him as perhaps the series' most dangerous character, despite not being its strongest fighter. The promotional nature of Super Dragon Ball Heroes influenced its storytelling significantly. As content designed to advertise an arcade game, the anime prioritized spectacle and fan service over traditional narrative structure. Characters appeared because fans wanted to see them, rather than because the plot demanded their presence. Battles escalated beyond logical power scaling because excitement mattered more than consistency. This approach created both strengths and weaknesses. The series could showcase matchups and transformations that would never occur in main Dragon Ball continuity, fulfilling fan wishes for specific character interactions. The freedom from strict continuity allowed experimentation with ideas that might seem too outlandish for the primary franchise. However, the promotional focus also meant that character development often took secondary priority to combat showcases. Emotional moments existed but rarely received the time to breathe that they might have in a traditional series. The short episode length contributed to this, forcing even complex conflicts to resolve within minutes rather than building tension across multiple episodes. The animation quality in Super Dragon Ball Heroes varied considerably across different episodes. Major battles received fluid animation with detailed choreography, while less important scenes often used static shots and limited movement. This variation reflected the production realities of creating content on a promotional budget rather than a full series allocation. Despite these limitations, Super Dragon Ball Heroes achieved something valuable within its niche. It created a space where Dragon Ball could experiment freely, exploring ideas too strange or specific for the main continuity. The series acknowledged fan desires for specific matchups and transformations, delivering them without requiring complex justification within primary canon. The distinction between anime and manga versions of Super Dragon Ball Heroes created interesting parallel narratives. The manga generally provided more detailed explanations for events and motivations, spending time on character development that the anime's brief episodes could not accommodate. Reading both versions provided a fuller understanding of the story than either alone. Certain plot points appeared only in the manga, creating alternate versions of events that differed significantly from the anime's portrayal. These variations allowed fans to choose which version they preferred while acknowledging that both existed as valid interpretations. The flexibility reflected Super Dragon Ball Heroes' overall approach to continuity. Voice acting in the anime maintained continuity with Dragon Ball Super where possible, featuring many of the same voice actors reprising their roles. This consistency helped ground the more outlandish elements, making even the strangest transformations feel connected to the characters fans knew. Hearing familiar voices made experimental content more palatable. Music in Super Dragon Ball Heroes blended new compositions with remixed versions of classic Dragon Ball themes. Hearing updated versions of the original Dragon Ball soundtrack or Dragon Ball Z battle themes created nostalgic connections while maintaining the series' distinct identity. The music choices emphasized continuity with Dragon Ball's broader legacy. The series' impact on Dragon Ball's wider franchise remained somewhat ambiguous. Elements introduced in Super Dragon Ball Heroes occasionally influenced other Dragon Ball media, but the promotional series continuity remained separate from the main timeline. Characters and transformations created for Heroes existed in their own space, available for reference but not binding on primary canon. Fan reception to Super Dragon Ball Heroes varied significantly. Some viewers appreciated the spectacle and fan service, enjoying seeing favorite characters fight regardless of plot complexity. Others criticized the series for prioritizing combat over coherent storytelling, arguing that battles without meaningful stakes felt hollow despite impressive animation. The debate about Super Dragon Ball Heroes' value often centered on expectations. Viewers approaching it as a traditional Dragon Ball series found it lacking in character development and plot coherence. Those understanding its promotional nature and adjusted their expectations accordingly found much to enjoy in its creative freedom and spectacular battles. Super Dragon Ball Heroes continued releasing episodes beyond the major sagas detailed here, with new content appearing periodically based on developments in the arcade game. Each update brought new characters, transformations, or scenarios for fans to explore. The series maintained its format of short episodes focused heavily on combat spectacle. Certain fan-favorite moments from across Super Dragon Ball Heroes run became iconic within the community. The first appearance of Super Saiyan 4 Limit Breaker generated significant excitement, as did the debut of Beast Gohan and Orange Piccolo. These transformations represented fan wishes being fulfilled after years of speculation. The various Gogeta and Vegito appearances throughout the series satisfied fans' desires to see both fusions fighting at maximum power. Every saga found reasons to bring out fusion warriors, understanding that these combinations generated particular enthusiasm. The battles between different fusion forms created memorable spectacle. Seeing characters from different continuities fight together created unique moments impossible in standard Dragon Ball. Xeno Goku fighting alongside regular Goku, or Super Saiyan 4 appearing in the same battle as Super Saiyan Blue, fulfilled crossover dreams. These team-ups justified Super Dragon Ball Heroes' existence for many viewers. The time travel mechanics allowed appearances from characters who had died in main continuity, giving warriors like future Gohan additional screen time. These resurrections through time manipulation let fans see fallen heroes fighting at full strength rather than being limited to brief appearances or flashbacks. Super Dragon Ball Heroes' willingness to experiment extended to its handling of transformations. Rather than treating each form as the ultimate peak, the series continuously introduced enhanced versions and variations. This approach acknowledged that power scaling in Dragon Ball had always been somewhat arbitrary, embracing that quality rather than fighting against it. The series explored different transformation philosophies through its various forms. Super Saiyan Blue represented divine control and ki efficiency. Super Saiyan 4 embodied pure Saiyan power, Ultra Instinct perfected defensive reaction, and Ultra Ego weaponized damage accumulation. Each approach to strength reflected different aspects of combat philosophy. Fusion warriors received particular attention throughout Super Dragon Ball Heroes' run, with the series exploring different fusion combinations and enhanced forms. The distinction between Potara and Fusion Dance fusions remained, with each method producing different results despite combining the same individuals. This consistency maintained connection to established Dragon Ball mechanics. The appearance of characters from across Dragon Ball's history created a celebratory atmosphere that emphasized the franchise's longevity. Seeing Oolong alongside Jiren or Kid Goku interacting with Ultra Instinct Goku highlighted how far the series had come over decades. These moments served as tributes to Dragon Ball's evolution. Super Dragon Ball Heroes occasionally referenced events from Dragon Ball video games, particularly the Xenoverse series and Dragon Ball Heroes arcade game. These references created a broader Dragon Ball multimedia continuity where different iterations acknowledged each other's existence. The interconnection suggested a vast multiverse of Dragon Ball possibilities. The series' approach to female characters mirrored broader Dragon Ball tendencies, with relatively few female fighters receiving significant screen time compared to male warriors. Notable exceptions included the Supreme Kai of Time Chronoa, who played crucial roles across multiple sagas, and female Saiyan characters from alternate timelines. Xenopan appeared occasionally, representing future Gohan's daughter, in an alternate timeline where she survived and became a time patroller. Her presence added another generation to the time-traveling Saiyan lineage, showing that even in timelines where things went wrong, the Saiyan bloodline continued producing warriors. The Demon Realm characters brought magical elements that contrasted with the ki-based techniques most fighters used. Their abilities included curses, possession, and reality warping that required different counters than simple overwhelming power. This variety prevented battles from becoming purely about who could generate the most energy. Gods of Destruction's appearances throughout Super Dragon Ball Heroes explored their personalities beyond Beerus's characterization in Dragon Ball Super. Each universe's destruction god possessed distinct traits and fighting styles, from Champa's lazy but effective techniques to other gods who took their roles more seriously. The variety added depth to the cosmic hierarchy. Angels received less focus than gods of destruction, despite theoretically being stronger. Their role as attendants and trainers meant they rarely engaged in direct combat, serving instead as observers or referees during major conflicts. This restraint maintained their mysterious nature while preventing them from trivializing threats through intervention. Xeno's continued absence from most conflicts remained notable. Despite multiversal threats that should have attracted the Omni King's attention, he never appeared to erase problems. This absence could be interpreted as trust in the established cosmic order to handle threats, or simply as a narrative choice to maintain stakes by keeping the ultimate authority off the board. The Grand Priest's brief appearances suggested awareness of events without direct involvement, maintaining the pattern established in Dragon Ball Super. His power presumably exceeded nearly everything shown in Super Dragon Ball Heroes, but he allowed conflicts to resolve naturally rather than imposing solutions from above. Super Dragon Ball Heroes' relationship with power scaling became a frequent topic of discussion among fans. The series pushed power levels far beyond Dragon Ball Super's already impressive heights, with characters achieving transformations and fusion states that exceeded previous peaks dramatically. This escalation followed Dragon Ball's historical pattern while accelerating it significantly. Debates about which characters or forms were strongest proved largely futile, given Super Dragon Ball Heroes' flexible approach to power consistency. The series prioritized exciting matchups over rigid hierarchies, allowing any character to compete at top levels if the story demanded it. This flexibility enabled unexpected battles that would be impossible with strict power scaling. The complete timeline of Super Dragon Ball Heroes stretched from July 2018 through at least October 2024, spanning over 6 years of irregular releases. The total episode count exceeded 100. Though the brief length of each episode meant the total runtime remained modest compared to traditional anime series. Future releases seemed likely given the ongoing arcade game's continued popularity. As long as the game generated new content, the anime adaptation would presumably continue providing animated versions of new characters and scenarios. The series had demonstrated sustainability within its niche. Super Dragon Ball Heroes' legacy within Dragon Ball franchise would likely center on its role as an experimental space. It provided a venue for ideas too strange for main continuity, while satisfying fan desires for specific matchups and transformations. The series proved that Dragon Ball's appeal could extend beyond traditional narrative structure. The distinction between Super Dragon Ball Heroes and canonical Dragon Ball remained clear to most fans. Characters and events from Heroes existed in a separate continuity, allowing them to be enjoyed without affecting the main timeline's ongoing story. This separation provided freedom while maintaining the integrity of primary canon. For viewers seeking pure combat spectacle and fan service, Super Dragon Ball Heroes delivered consistently. Its battles showcased impressive animation during key moments, and its willingness to bring together characters from across Dragon Ball's history created unique entertainment. The series knew its audience and catered to their specific desires effectively. For those wanting deeper character development and complex plotting, Super Dragon Ball Heroes offered less satisfaction. Its brief episodes and focus on action over character moments meant emotional beats rarely received adequate time to resonate. The series worked best when accepted as supplementary content rather than a primary Dragon Ball experience. The music, animation, voice acting, and spectacle combined to create an experience distinct from other Dragon Ball content, while remaining recognizably part of the franchise. Super Dragon Ball Heroes carved out a unique space within Dragon Ball's multimedia presence, serving fans who wanted something different from the main series. As night settles and this journey through time and dimensions draws toward its close, the complete timeline of Super Dragon Ball Heroes reveals itself as a story about possibility. Every saga explored what might happen if different realities collided, if warriors from separate timelines fought together, if the barriers between continuities dissolved. The prison planets and universe trees, the time tournaments and dimensional wars, all served as vehicles for asking what if. The series embraced the fundamental appeal of Dragon Ball, watching warriors push beyond their limits, regardless of how high those limits had already risen. Each transformation and fusion represented another step beyond what should have been possible, acknowledging that impossibility had never stopped Goku or his companions before. Fu's experiments formed a thread connecting different sagas, his scientific curiosity driving conflicts that tested heroes across realities. His role as antagonist and observer blurred the line between villain and force of nature, making him something unique within Dragon Ball's usual roster of threats. His continued presence suggested future stories would follow similar patterns. The Time Patrol's ongoing mission to protect temporal stability provided continuity between otherwise disconnected adventures. Their presence reminded viewers that even in a series celebrating multiversal chaos, someone needed to maintain order and prevent paradoxes from unraveling reality completely. The relationship between Super Dragon Ball Heroes and the arcade game that spawned it deserves examination. The game released in Japan during November of 2010, predating the anime adaptation by nearly 8 years. Players collected physical cards featuring Dragon Ball characters, scanning them into arcade machines to build teams and battle opponents. The game's popularity sustained it through multiple updates and expansions. Each new game update introduced additional characters, transformations, and scenarios that the anime would later adapt. The delay between game content and anime adaptation sometimes stretched months or years, creating a situation where game players experienced stories long before anime viewers encountered them. This gap meant dedicated fans often knew what was coming. The card collection aspect encouraged players to experiment with different team combinations. Rare cards featuring powerful characters or unique forms became highly sought after, driving both gameplay strategy and collector enthusiasm. The physical cards themselves became valuable beyond their gameplay function. Game missions often featured narrative scenarios that the anime condensed or reimagined. A single game mission might involve multiple battles and story beats that the anime compressed into one 8-minute episode. This compression meant anime viewers received abbreviated versions of stories that game players experienced more gradually. The promotional relationship between game and anime worked bidirectionally. New anime episodes generated interest in corresponding game content, while game updates provided material for future anime adaptation. This symbiotic relationship sustained both products, with each driving engagement with the other. Voice acting recorded for the game often carried over to the anime, maintaining continuity and character portrayal. Hearing the same voices across both mediums reinforced the connection between them, making the anime feel like a natural extension of the game experience rather than a separate entity. The arcade format influenced how stories were structured. Game missions needed clear objectives and conclusions within limited playtime, favoring episodic structure over long narrative arcs. The anime inherited this tendency, presenting stories as sequences of distinct battles rather than slowly building storylines. Regional availability affected how different audiences experienced Super Dragon Ball Heroes. The arcade game remained primarily a Japanese phenomenon, with limited international distribution. The anime achieved much wider distribution through online platforms, allowing global audiences to experience the story without accessing the game. This disparity created an interesting dynamic where many anime viewers had no direct experience with the source game. They encountered Super Dragon Ball Heroes purely as anime content, evaluating it by those standards rather than as game promotion. The disconnect sometimes led to confusion about the series' purpose and structure. Fan translations of game content occasionally preceded official anime releases, giving dedicated international fans early access to story details. These translations built anticipation for upcoming anime episodes, while also creating expectations that the official adaptations sometimes failed to meet. The art style employed by Super Dragon Ball Heroes reflected modern anime production trends while maintaining connection to Akira Toriyama's original character designs. New characters introduced specifically for Heroes received designs that blended with established Dragon Ball aesthetics, preventing visual disconnect between original and new elements. Fu's character design exemplified this approach. His appearance incorporated elements from both his parents, Towa and Mira, while adding unique touches like his distinctive hairstyle and clothing. The design communicated his scientific nature, while ensuring he looked at home within Dragon Ball's visual language. Transformation designs in Super Dragon Ball Heroes pushed boundaries while respecting established patterns. Super Saiyan 4 Limit Breaker added silver energy to the traditional red aura without completely abandoning the base form's appearance. Beast Gohan's white hair and red eyes created striking visual contrast while clearly identifying him as Gohan. Color choices for new transformations considered both visual impact and symbolic meaning. Orange Piccolo's coloration represented a departure from Namekian green, signifying the unprecedented nature of his power-up. Ultra Ego's purple aura distinguished it from Ultra Instinct's silver while suggesting destructive energy. Background art during battles varied from highly detailed environments to more abstract energy spaces. Major fights often took place in dimension-warping arenas where normal physics did not apply, allowing the animation team to create surreal backdrops that emphasized the supernatural nature of combat. The animation techniques used in Super Dragon Ball Heroes combined traditional hand-drawn art with digital effects. Energy blasts and auras typically receive digital enhancement, creating luminous effects that would be difficult to achieve through traditional methods. Character movement remained primarily hand-drawn, maintaining the organic feel of classic Dragon Ball action. Combat choreography drew inspiration from Dragon Ball Z and Super, while adding new elements specific to Heroes' characters. Xeno Goku's fighting style incorporated techniques from both GT and Super continuities, reflecting his unique position bridging those timelines. His movements blended the aggressive assault of Super Saiyan 4 with the refined efficiency learned through time patrol training. Fusion warriors displayed fighting styles that synthesized their components' techniques into cohesive wholes. Gogeta's fluid dance-like movement patterns contrasted with Vegeta's more forceful direct approach, showing how different fusion methods produced different combat philosophies despite combining the same individuals. Energy attack animation received particular attention, with signature techniques like the Kamehameha appearing frequently across different sagas. Each warrior's version of classic techniques showed subtle variations, suggesting individual adaptation while maintaining recognizable core elements. Goku's Kamehameha remained the standard against which others were measured. The final Kamehameha, Vegito's signature combination technique, appeared during climactic battles. Its animation emphasized the perfect synchronization of Goku and Vegeta's energies, showing how fusion allowed their powers to amplify each other, rather than simply adding together. The visual effect communicated power exceeding the sum of its parts. Beam clashes formed dramatic highlights in multiple battles, with opposing energy attacks meeting mid-flight and struggling for dominance. These moments allowed for extended tension as fighters poured more power into their techniques, muscles straining and auras flaring, while their attacks contested in blinding light. Transformation sequences received careful attention despite their brevity. Each transformation showed the warrior's body being engulfed by energy before revealing the new form, maintaining Dragon Ball's traditional approach while adding modern visual flair. The sequences communicated power increasing dramatically while creating brief moments of anticipation. Environmental destruction during battles reinforced the combat's intensity. Mountains crumbled from wayward energy blasts, planets cracked under the pressure of clashing auras, and dimensional barriers shattered when power exceeded containment. The collateral damage reminded viewers of the stakes involved. Facial expressions during combat conveyed determination, fury, pain, and exhaustion. Close-up shots captured warriors gritting their teeth as they pushed beyond their limits, sweat mixing with energy residue on their skin. These human moments grounded even the most spectacular supernatural battles. The passage of time within battles often compressed significantly, with exchanges that would logically last seconds, stretching across minutes of screen time. This temporal manipulation served narrative purposes, allowing viewers to appreciate complex exchanges that would blur together at actual combat speed. The technique acknowledged that watching fights differed from experiencing them. Sound design complemented visual presentation throughout Super Dragon Ball Heroes. Impact sounds emphasized the force behind punches and kicks, with deeper tones for more powerful blows. Energy attacks produced distinct sounds based on their type, from the crackling roar of lightning-based techniques to the focused hum of concentrated beam attacks. Voice acting during battle scenes required conveying exertion and emotion while remaining intelligible. Actors grunted and shouted as their characters fought, but dialogue remained clear enough for viewers to follow. The balance between realistic combat sounds and narrative clarity influenced how voices were recorded and mixed. Background music during battles typically featured energetic rock-influenced compositions with driving percussion and electric guitar. These tracks created urgency and excitement while avoiding overwhelming dialogue. Musical intensity rose and fell with the battle's flow, accentuating key moments. Quieter scenes used gentler instrumentation, though such scenes appeared less frequently in Super Dragon Ball Heroes than in traditional Dragon Ball series. The promotional nature meant battles dominated, leaving limited time for contemplative moments that would benefit from softer music. Theme songs for different sagas created musical identity while maintaining stylistic consistency with Dragon Ball's broader musical tradition. Opening themes emphasized heroism and determination, while ending themes sometimes adopted more reflective tones. The lyrics often referenced specific saga events or themes. The production schedule for Super Dragon Ball Heroes episodes varied considerably. Unlike weekly television anime with predictable release patterns, Heroes episodes appeared irregularly based on game update schedules and promotional needs. Gaps between episodes sometimes stretched weeks or months. This irregular schedule created challenges for maintaining audience engagement. Long gaps between episodes risked viewers forgetting previous events or losing interest entirely. The brief episode length meant each release needed to deliver immediate impact to justify the wait. Production values varied between episodes based on available resources and specific episode importance. Major saga conclusions received enhanced animation budgets, while transitional episodes sometimes featured more limited movement and simpler compositions. The variation was noticeable but not extreme enough to break immersion. The production team's size remained relatively modest compared to major televised anime productions. This smaller scale influenced what could be achieved within time and budget constraints. The focus remained firmly on delivering exciting combat sequences, with other elements receiving whatever attention remained after those priorities were met. International distribution through official YouTube channels democratized access to Super Dragon Ball Heroes episodes. Viewers worldwide could watch new releases simultaneously with Japanese audiences, though subtitle availability sometimes lagged slightly. This global accessibility contributed significantly to the series' international fanbase. Fan communities formed around Super Dragon Ball Heroes, discussing episodes and speculating about future content. These communities bridged language barriers, with fans translating content and sharing information across different regions. The international cooperation reflected Dragon Ball's broader global appeal. Merchandise tied to Super Dragon Ball Heroes extended beyond the arcade game cards. Figures depicting characters in their hero-specific transformations appeared, allowing fans to collect physical representations of forms never seen in main Dragon Ball continuity. These collectibles served both as toys and display pieces. Video games beyond the arcade original incorporated Super Dragon Ball Heroes content. The Dragon Ball Heroes series expanded to Nintendo Switch and PC, making the game accessible to players who lacked access to arcades. These versions adapted the card battle system for home play while adding new content. Mobile games included crossover events featuring Super Dragon Ball Heroes characters and scenarios. These events introduced casual mobile players to Heroes content while promoting the main game and anime. The cross-pollination helped expand awareness of Heroes beyond its core audience. Trading card games separate from the arcade game adopted Super Dragon Ball Heroes designs and characters. Collectors who enjoyed physical card games could engage with Heroes content through familiar formats. The card's artwork showcased character designs in static form, highlighting details that moved too quickly to appreciate during animated battles. Clothing and accessories featuring Super Dragon Ball Heroes designs allowed fans to display their appreciation publicly. T-shirts, hoodies, and hats with character images or saga logos became popular among dedicated fans. Wearing such merchandise signaled membership in the community to other fans. Art books documenting Super Dragon Ball Heroes' visual development provided insight into the creative process. These books showed early character designs, transformation concepts, and environment sketches that informed the final animated product. Fans appreciated seeing how ideas evolved from initial concepts to screen-ready designs. Interviews with staff members occasionally appeared in promotional materials or fan publications. Directors, animators, and voice actors shared their experiences working on Super Dragon Ball Heroes, discussing challenges and favorite moments. These interviews humanized the production process while building appreciation for the work involved. The relationship between Super Dragon Ball Heroes and Dragon Ball Super created interesting dynamics. The two series existed in separate continuities but shared characters and concepts. Transformations that appeared in Super sometimes influenced Heroes' designs, while Heroes occasionally introduced ideas that sparked speculation about future Super content. Fans debated whether Super Dragon Ball Heroes should be considered canon to Dragon Ball's main continuity. The general consensus held that Heroes existed in its own separate continuity, allowing it to be enjoyed without affecting the primary timeline. This separation freed Heroes to experiment without canonical consequences. Some viewers treated Super Dragon Ball Heroes as a celebration of everything Dragon Ball, appreciating its willingness to bring together elements from across the franchise's history. This perspective valued the series for its comprehensive approach rather than criticizing its departure from traditional narrative structure. Others viewed Heroes primarily as fan service and spectacle, enjoying it on those terms without expecting deeper storytelling. This approach allowed appreciation of the combat and character moments without disappointment over limited plot development. The series succeeded when audiences understood what it was trying to be. Critical reception of Super Dragon Ball Heroes varied widely. Mainstream anime critics often dismissed it as shallow promotional content lacking substance. Dragon Ball enthusiasts ranged from passionate defenders to harsh critics depending on their priorities and expectations. The series' impact on Dragon Ball's broader community proved difficult to quantify. Heroes maintained a dedicated fanbase who followed each release eagerly, but it never achieved the cultural penetration of Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super. Its status as supplementary content limited mainstream awareness. Fan creations inspired by Super Dragon Ball Heroes included artwork, fan fiction, and amateur animation. Artists created renditions of Heroes' characters in their own styles, while writers explored scenarios and character interactions that the official series never addressed. These creations extended Heroes' influence beyond official content. Discussion about power scaling in Super Dragon Ball Heroes generated endless debate. Fans attempted to rank characters and transformations despite the series' flexible approach to power levels. These discussions often proved frustrating due to inconsistencies, but they engaged the community and sustained interest between episodes. Speculation about future Super Dragon Ball Heroes content became a regular activity in fan communities. Viewers predicted which characters might appear, what transformations could debut, and what scenarios might be explored. The irregular release schedule and promotional nature made prediction difficult but rewarding when guesses proved accurate. Crossover potential between Super Dragon Ball Heroes and other Dragon Ball media sparked imagination. Fans wondered whether Heroes characters might appear in other games or anime, or if main continuity might reference Heroes events. These crossovers remained hypothetical, maintaining the separation between continuities. The educational value of Super Dragon Ball Heroes primarily involved demonstrating different animation techniques and approaches to adaptation. Students of animation could analyze how the series compressed game content into short episodes while maintaining coherent action sequences. The production served as a case study in promotional content creation. Language learners sometimes used Super Dragon Ball Heroes episodes to practice Japanese listening comprehension. The combat-heavy focus meant dialogue was relatively simple and repetitive, with frequent use of character names and technique calls. The brief episodes provided manageable practice sessions. The series' exploration of time travel and alternate timelines offered examples of complex narrative concepts executed simply. Despite the intricate theoretical framework, the actual presentation remained straightforward enough for casual viewers to follow. This accessibility demonstrated effective communication of complicated ideas. Cultural aspects of Super Dragon Ball Heroes reflected contemporary Japanese gaming culture. The arcade game format connected to Japan's ongoing enthusiasm for arcade gaming despite declining international interest. The card collection element aligned with Japanese collecting culture's appreciation for physical objects with gameplay function. The crossover between gaming and anime cultures manifested clearly in Super Dragon Ball Heroes' production and audience. Viewers often engaged with both the game and anime, treating them as complementary experiences. The integration showed how modern franchises could span multiple media formats successfully. Social media's role in spreading Super Dragon Ball Heroes internationally proved significant. Clips from episodes circulated on platforms like Twitter and YouTube, reaching audiences who might never watch full episodes. These clips served as advertisement, generating interest that sometimes converted to viewership. Streaming platforms' official hosting of Super Dragon Ball Heroes episodes legitimized international viewing. Fans no longer needed to rely on unofficial sources, improving video quality and ensuring creators received appropriate recognition. Legal accessibility helped the series reach its full potential audience. The COVID-19 pandemic affected Super Dragon Ball Heroes production minimally compared to traditionally scheduled anime. The irregular release schedule provided flexibility to adjust to pandemic restrictions without disappointing audiences expecting weekly episodes. Productions during this period maintained reasonable quality despite challenges. The series' continued production through difficult periods demonstrated its sustainability. Super Dragon Ball Heroes had found a successful niche that generated sufficient interest and revenue to justify ongoing creation. The model proved viable for long-term supplementary content. Looking toward the future, Super Dragon Ball Heroes' potential seemed tied to the arcade game's continued popularity. As long as the game thrived, Anime adaptations would likely continue appearing. The symbiotic relationship suggested both could sustain each other indefinitely. New transformations and characters would inevitably appear in future releases. Dragon Ball's tradition of escalating power levels showed no signs of stopping, and Super Dragon Ball Heroes embraced this tendency without reservation. Each new form would generate discussion and speculation within the community. Potential crossovers with upcoming Dragon Ball projects remained possible, though separation between continuities would likely persist. References or cameos might occur, but full integration seemed unlikely given the different narrative priorities of promotional versus canonical content. The archive of existing Super Dragon Ball Heroes episodes created a substantial library of content for new fans to explore. Viewers discovering the series years after initial release could marathon multiple sagas consecutively, experiencing the storyline differently than those who waited weeks or months between episodes. Preservation of Super Dragon Ball Heroes episodes ensured long-term accessibility. Official uploads to streaming platforms and YouTube protected against content loss while allowing perpetual discovery. Future Dragon Ball fans would be able to explore this experimental chapter regardless of when they encountered the franchise. The lessons learned from producing Super Dragon Ball Heroes informed other Dragon Ball projects. Understanding what worked well and what disappointed audiences helped guide decisions about future supplementary content. The experimental Space Heroes provided valuable data about fan preferences and tolerances. Super Dragon Ball Heroes demonstrated that Dragon Ball's appeal extended beyond traditional storytelling. The franchise could sustain content that prioritized different values while still finding an appreciative audience. This flexibility suggested Dragon Ball's longevity would continue as creators found new ways to engage fans. The complete timeline of Super Dragon Ball Heroes, stretching across years and encompassing multiple sagas, represented an ambitious promotional project that exceeded its original scope. What began as simple advertisement for an arcade game evolved into substantial animated content with dedicated viewership. The transformation demonstrated how promotional material could develop value beyond its initial commercial purpose. Each saga contributed unique elements to the overall tapestry. The Prison Planet saga established the multiverse premise. The Universal Conflict saga escalated stakes to universal scale. The new Space-Time War saga introduced temporal warfare. The Universe Creation saga questioned reality itself. The Supreme Kai of Time saga explored temporal governance, and subsequent arcs built upon these foundations. The warriors who populated these stories, drawn from across Dragon Ball's history and supplemented with original creations, formed a vast roster representing the franchise's evolution. From Kid Goku to Ultra Instinct Goku, from Raditz to Gods of Destruction, the character selection celebrated Dragon Ball's journey through decades. Transformations showcased throughout the timeline demonstrated power's many paths. Super Saiyan forms numbered beyond counting, each iteration adding new visual elements and conceptual meaning. Divine transformations touched upon godhood's nature, while primal forms like Super Saiyan 4 embraced Saiyan heritage. No single approach dominated, validating multiple philosophies. Fusion remained a recurring solution to overwhelming threats, with Gogeta and Vegito appearing whenever individual strength proved insufficient. Their battles represented the series' most spectacular moments, combining two legendary warriors into singular beings of tremendous power. The fusions embodied cooperation's potential even when executed between rivals. Villains across the timeline pursued various goals, from personal vengeance to multiversal domination to scientific curiosity. Their motivations ranged from understandable to incomprehensible, but all provided opposition that required heroes to surpass their current limits. Each antagonist pushed the narrative forward through their actions. The Time Patrol served as connective tissue between sagas, their mission to protect temporal stability, providing justification for characters from different eras interacting. Their organization represented order imposed upon chaos, attempting to prevent paradoxes while acknowledging that some temporal interference served the greater good. Fu's overarching presence as scientist and manipulator tied disparate events into a larger pattern of experimentation. His observations informed projects that would affect multiple timelines, making him perhaps the series' most persistent threat despite rarely engaging in direct combat. Knowledge and planning proved as dangerous as raw power. The Supreme Kai of Time's role evolved from administrator to active participant, her temporal abilities making her uniquely qualified to address threats targeting time itself. Her partnership with Goku and others from different timelines showed that even cosmic authorities sometimes needed mortal assistance. Gods of destruction and angels appeared throughout the timeline without fully involving themselves in conflicts. Their restraint maintained proper hierarchy while preventing them from trivializing threats. The careful balance kept them relevant without undermining the hero's struggles. Zeno's absence, despite multiversal stakes, remained unexplained, but narratively important. His non-intervention allowed stories to develop without the threat of casual erasure ending conflicts prematurely. The highest authority's distance gave room for others to find solutions. The various tournaments throughout Super Dragon Ball Heroes' timeline provided structure for conflicts while allowing multiple characters to showcase abilities. The tournament format enabled battles that might not occur naturally, creating matchups that satisfied fan curiosity. Special episodes and promotional content supplemented main sagas, exploring scenarios and characters that didn't fit the primary narrative. These diversions provided variety while maintaining focus on combat and spectacle. The flexibility allowed experimentation within an already experimental framework. The relationship between anime and manga versions created parallel narratives that informed each other while maintaining distinct identities. Readers and viewers could enjoy both versions, finding different emphasis and details in each. The multiplicity enriched the overall story. Art, animation, and music combined to create sensory experiences that define Super Dragon Ball Heroes as distinct from other Dragon Ball content. The visual style evolved from early episodes to later sagas, improving in technical execution while maintaining consistent aesthetic choices. Voice acting maintained continuity with Dragon Ball Super, grounding the experimental content in familiar performances. Hearing known voices portray familiar characters in new situations created comfort while allowing appreciation of novel scenarios. The audio consistency helped tie Heroes to broader Dragon Ball continuity. Fan engagement with Super Dragon Ball Heroes demonstrated the franchise's ability to maintain enthusiasm despite releasing non-canonical content. Viewers returned repeatedly for new episodes, discussed developments between releases, and created communities around shared appreciation. The dedication proved that Dragon Ball's appeal transcended strict continuity requirements. The series' accessibility through official online distribution allowed global audiences to participate simultaneously. Geographic barriers that once limited anime viewing dissolved, creating international fan communities that shared reactions and theories in real time. The democratic access reflected modern media consumption patterns. Merchandise and supplementary content extended Super Dragon Ball Heroes' presence beyond the episodes themselves. Fans could collect figures, cards, and other items that kept the series present in their lives between releases. The physical objects served as tangible connections to the animated content. The production challenges of creating Super Dragon Ball Heroes on an irregular schedule with limited resources highlighted the dedication required to maintain consistent quality. Animation teams worked within constraints to deliver spectacle that met audience expectations. Their success demonstrated professional skill and commitment. The series' position within Dragon Ball's broader franchise remained somewhat ambiguous, existing in acknowledged supplementary space. Heroes neither replaced nor interfered with main continuity, instead offering an alternative experience for fans seeking different content. The separation allowed experimentation without consequence. Critical reception varied from dismissive to celebratory depending on expectations and priorities. Viewers approaching Super Dragon Ball Heroes as traditional anime often found it lacking, while those understanding its promotional nature appreciated it on appropriate terms. Perspective determined satisfaction. The cultural impact of Super Dragon Ball Heroes concentrated within specific fan communities rather than achieving mainstream penetration. The series found its audience and served them well without reaching beyond that niche. The focused appeal ensured sustainability without requiring mass acceptance. Looking back across the complete timeline from the Prison Planet saga's beginning to the ongoing releases beyond the major arcs, Super Dragon Ball Heroes revealed itself as an experimental space where Dragon Ball could play without restriction. The freedom from canonical consequences allowed creative risks that enriched the franchise through their willingness to attempt the unconventional. The warriors who fought across these timelines, the transformations they achieved, the fusions they formed, and the threats they overcame created a library of combat that celebrated Dragon Ball's essence. Power, determination, cooperation, and the constant push to surpass limits defined every saga regardless of specific circumstances. As the hours grow late and consciousness begins its gentle drift towards sleep, perhaps the real value of Super Dragon Ball Heroes becomes clear. It is a dream made manifest, showing what happens when Dragon Ball's core concepts are freed from narrative constraints and allowed to explore pure possibility. Every impossible fusion, every reality-bending transformation, every multiversal conflict exists because someone imagined it and brought it into being. The timeline may continue expanding with new sagas and scenarios, but the pattern remains consistent. Warriors gather, threats emerge, battles test everyone's limits, cooperation overcomes individual insufficiency, and tomorrow brings new challenges. This cycle mirrors Dragon Ball's fundamental structure while pushing each element to extremes. Somewhere in the space between timelines, between the Super continuity and the GT continuity, between what happened and what might have happened, Super Dragon Ball Heroes carved out territory uniquely its own. The stories told there may not affect main canon, but they exist as valid expressions of Dragon Ball's spirit. Fu continues his experiments, always observing, always learning, always planning the next project. The Time Patrol maintains its vigil, watching for paradoxes and distortions. Goku trains, Vegeta competes, and warriors from across time and space stand ready should threats emerge. The cycle continues. Thanks for spending this time in the Dragon Ball universe with me. If you'd like to keep drifting, another video is ready on the left of your screen. Maybe let it play as you close your eyes. Sleep might find you before the next journey unfolds.